Hello all, this is James Johnson aka Sulfurblade, and I am here with a top 9 video. In this video we will be going over my top 9 favorite characters from Star Trek. This will include all the Star Trek shows. So without further ado, here we are looking at Trip, Commander Tucker. So Trip is instrumental on board the Starship Enterprise, the NX-01 Enterprise. He is the chief engineer. He's the guy that kind of holds it all together. He's a very Scotty-esque type character. He really kind of, as an engineer, he gets to, well, play a role that a lot of our favorite engineers were probably a little bit jealous of. He got to be kind of part of the trifecta, if you will, of the original series type recipe for Star Trek. In the original series, you of course had Spock, Bones, and Kirk. Well, in the Enterprise, you had Trip, you had Archer, and you had T'Pol. Yes, there are other characters, and there's other characters in the original series as well, but those three characters would often go on most of the away missions together. They would often get most of the screen time. They would play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the rest of the cast would kind of support them. Well, Trip, being an engineer, Scotty didn't get that type of screen time. Mr. LaForge never got that amount of screen time. In fact, Mr. LaForge wasn't really even chief engineer till several seasons in. The Next Generation kind of floundered around with they had several different chief engineers through the first season and first two seasons. But anyway, I digress. So Tucker really gets an amazing chance as an engineer to fill a role of a lot of screen time inside of the Star Trek universe, and he does so remarkably well. He really complements the Jonathan Archer character, very similar to the way that Bones complemented Kirk. So yes, I really like Tucker. I think he's a great actor, and I appreciate him so much that he's up on my 9th spot for all-time best Star Trek characters. Alright, so here we are at the 8th spot, and we have the beloved Mr. Sulu. So Mr. Sulu, he never gets as much airtime as many of the rest of the cast. We get to remember him usually in smaller bite-sized pieces. But whenever he does get the opportunity to get his airtime, he's always done it with style. My special favorite would be when they're breaking the doctor out of prison, and he basically takes this security guard who calls him Shorty, and just tosses him around like a rag doll. And this guy is a giant of a guy. He stands up and he's like twice the size of Sulu, and Sulu just owns him. But Sulu is just this I don't want to say junior officer. So he starts off originally in the series as kind of being a junior officer-esque character, but Obviously, he's not that junior of an officer because he's always left in command of the Enterprise whenever everyone else that should be in command to goes down to the planet, and Sulu's left in charge. So Sulu, he gets all kinds of opportunities to have to make command decisions, whether it be in the TV shows and or the movies. And then he eventually becomes, captain of the Excelsior, where he gets to target that explosion and fire. But even when he gets screen time as a captain of a different ship, we love Sulu. And so for that place, I love Sulu. And so Sulu's number 8 in my top 9 of all time great Star Trek characters. Number 7, the beloved Jonathan Archer, captain of NX-01. Archer is kind of like this mix of a Captain Kirk and a Captain Picard. Little more wise than Kirk, not as wise as Picard. Little more reckless than Picard, not quite as reckless as Kirk. And then he seems to have the weight of the world pressing down him like a Captain Pike, or at least what Captain Pike is supposed to be like, as a person with the weight of the world trapped on his shoulders. And so that's kind of Jonathan Archer wrapped around in a nutshell, and I think Scott Bakula does a great job portraying this character. It was a very hard character to play. This captain who's stuck between Picard and Kirk, and I think he did a brilliant job. And I really loved his dog Portos. Everything about the Enterprise really felt like an accurate representation of bridging the divide of technology between the Next Generation and the original series and current modern technology. How we are today, how the utopia becomes in the future that we know of Starfleet. And the path in between there, the Enterprise feels like it really represents that path. Yeah, it's so believable. I can almost picture myself on the NX-01 with these guys. They don't feel like they're that technologically out of my reach. Like they're still almost on our level, but yet they're going out into the stars, right? And so it's for that reason that I really love the Enterprise and the concept of the Enterprise. It really kind of bridges us with what Star Trek becomes. And yeah, I think Scott Bakula does a marvelous job as the captain, as Jonathan Archer, in really helping that to progress. Number 6, Scotty, the miracle worker. Who doesn't love Commander Scott? You know, Scotty, we need more power. I'm giving you all she's got, Captain. I ain't got no more. He's always calm and cool under the worst situations, and he's so fun. He's just a barrel of laughs every time we get to see him. He's so lighthearted, but so Scotty. I don't, how do you describe Scotty other than Scotty? Uh, yeah, I love Scotty. He's number 6. All right, number 5, T'Pol. T'Pol really serves the remaining niche on the Enterprise that kind of really makes it feel, in many ways, a lot like the original series, in that you have Tucker and you have Jonathan Archer, and they're like Doc and McCoy and Kirk, but now you need a Spock portion of it, and that's T'Pol. Um, and I think she does. I think she does the job of being a Vulcan so well. She feels like a very flawed Vulcan, and that's what we end up learning, that she is kind of a flawed Vulcan. She's more accepting of her emotions than Vulcans should be. She feels romantically for Commander Tucker. It's really a nice dynamic. It's a different type of Kirk, Spock, Bones relationship, but it works. And I don't think the Enterprise could have been as good of a show as it was without T'Pol. T'Pol really makes the show a lot like Spock makes the original episode. Yeah, she's number 5. She really deserves that place. I love her. Can't say enough about this actress. She is a great character in the Star Trek universe. Number 4, Lieutenant Commander Data. Oh, how human is he? He's more human than all of the rest of us, but yet he's not. It's amazing what Brent Spinner has done with this character. So many people had it easy in the Star Trek universe in that, they were either playing an alien, like, Michael Dorn playing a Klingon. Not to say playing a Klingon is easy, but you have a certain typecast, if you will. And some might say that playing a machine is easy, but is it? How easy is it to be a machine? How is it easy to portray a machine who's always got to be highly efficient, always has to be highly logical, always has to be very machine-like, and all at the same time wanting to be human? So, attempting to not being efficient and attempting to not be machine-like, but of course being a machine that's incapable of being human, so therefore having to figure out how to sabotage yourself trying to be more human while trying to be a machine. It's almost a paradox in and of itself to think about what Data is and how well Brent Spinner makes this character just seamlessly work. I mean, Data may be some of the best acting in the Star Trek universe, just on a whole. If you had to talk about complex, hard characters, there's only one other character that even comes near Data, and that's Spock. And of course, Data and Spock are very much the same character, but they're not. So this is the next generation, and the next generation had to have a Spock. Though at first I said to myself, does the next generation have to have a Spock? When I first saw Data, I thought he was a cheap ripoff of Spock. But boy, did he prove me wrong through the years. I have come to love Data. He's far more than a cheap ripoff of Spock. And Brent Spinner did an amazing job with that character. Number 3, James T. Kirk, William Shatner. The original cowboy captain. Boy, did he have it easy, right? He was the first captain. He could be fun. He could be charming. He could be reckless. He could be the stereotypical captain, if you will. He didn't have to be different from Kirk, like all the captains that came after him. You know, it almost feels like Jean-Luc Picard is written the way he is just to be kind of, well, very different than Kirk. Everyone that came after Kirk seemed to have to be different than Kirk. But Kirk, he was the reckless cowboy captain, and he was fun to watch. Very fun character, very enjoyable, and the way he worked with DeForest Kelley and Leonard Nimoy, the three of them created a trio of actors that were just so wonderful to watch. Yeah, I can't say enough about how much I love Kirk, Spock, and Bones. But maybe to Kirk's chagrin, I'm going to put him at third. And so, who's number 2? Good old Dr. McCoy. The redneck doctor in space. So pragmatic. So practical. So humorous. But a dry humor. Very Bones. Just he was awesome. Bones was really there's no way to explain Bones except Bones. He's the pragmatic doctor who's got a dry sense of humor and always is trying to get the last word in. Gotta love him. And number 1, Leonard Nimoy. My number one favorite Star Trek character of all time. So, I could talk about Leonard Nimoy, but I don't think I need to. I think everyone knows why he's number 1. What he did to make Spock the character that Spock became. He taught us everything we needed to know about what a Vulcan is. It's thanks to him that we know how horrible Star Trek Discovery is. I hate to think what Leonard Nimoy would think of that show, but yeah. Spock, just amazing character. He is the reason Star Trek became what Star Trek became. I don't think there's any character that embodies Star Trek as much as Spock does. Everybody wanted to be, well, at least in my day, all the kids growing up would want to be Spock. Who wouldn't want to be smart, logical, but yet human, with pointy ears and not really human. But yeah, Spock was amazing. And so, as you can see, I put Spock number 1 on my list. Data's number 4 on my list, and T'Pol's number 5 on my list. And they all serve a very similar character type role in their respective roles. And I think it's in each of their respective roles, they kind of serve as the same leading, I'm not going to say leading role. Kirk was the leading role. They all serve the same content generating role. They bring the science fiction to life through being a Vulcan, being smart, having the answers, talking the geek. I mean, who says more crazy things than Spock? Well, maybe Data or T'Pol. they're all very similar in that they bring the sci-fi to the show. Kirk leads the sci-fi in the original series, but Spock creates it. And Picard leads the sci-fi, but Data creates it. And Archer leads the sci-fi, but T'Pol creates it. So, yeah, amazing characters. All of these 9 characters, just incredible. And yes, Picard was not in the top 10. In fact, Picard's number 10, guys. So that should tell you guys something. There's a lot of amazing Star Trek characters in the world of Star Trek that, for me at least, Picard rates as number 10. But in the next episode, we're going to talk about the 10 worst characters in the entirety of Star Trek. And so we just went over, these 9, and I also told you about Picard at the end being number 10. So I'll probably do the 9 worst characters. Yeah, so you can expect that while most of my characters I talked about in this list were either the original series, Data being the Next Generation, and the rest of the characters coming from Enterprise, the worst characters, you'll see a lot more of them coming from this horrible, horrible show that they're putting on TV for us to try to digest as Star Trek. And yes, there could be some Star Trek Discovery cast members that are going to become part of the top 9 worst Star Trek characters of all time in my next episode. So look forward to that. Hopefully you like this top 9 all-time best Star Trek characters. And until next time, leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz, and peace.